All right, welcome back to the PensPodcast. I'm Nick, joined by two men who deserve no introduction, but probably should get one anyways. Tonight, we've got Ken and Andy battling and duking it out for podcast supremacy. On today's show, Mike Johnston in the hot seat. Does Rob Scuderi actually serve a purpose on this team? How do we cheer up Sidney Crosby? And much more. So let's get it on, guys.
Let's get it on.
The first period.
All right, talk around the league is that Mike Johnston could possibly be on the hot seat if the Penguins didn't turn things around quickly after an 0-3 start to the season. Can buy or sell the notion that a coach could be let go so quickly into a season?
Oh, I think it's very much so. It depends on how long of a leash that coach has and how long they've been there.
Woof.
Players have tuned them out. Now, Mike Johnston, we're only in the second year for him, but I mean, look at Todd Richards. He's 0-6. His team is up -16 or -17 in the goal differential, and he's still with the team inexplicably right now. Something has got to change in Columbus, and it's almost a hard sell for Mike Johnston to be to find the curb before Todd Richards would. So I'm not buying right now that Mike Richards or not. Oh, the Mike Richards is on.
Mike Richards. He's gone.
Mike Richards shouldn't be anywhere.
That the Mike Johnston is on the hot seat just yet, though I don't think his leash is very short because this is not a very patient management group.
It is not. Now, Andy, we've heard a lot over the past week about Johnston's coaching system and how he doesn't do a lot of adjustments and how his simplistic system may end up being the downfall for him. Do you buy or sell the notion that his simplistic system will eventually cost him his job?
I'm not buying it at the moment. It could be an issue, but it's way too early for me to say. And like Ken was saying about Todd Richards, yeah, the team's 0-6. The personnel isn't great on defense there. And, boy, it's really tough to be an NHL head coach, isn't it? I mean, 6 games and, people are talking about firing you already. And I understand they do have high expectations there in Columbus, as we do here in Pittsburgh. But there's a lot of personnel changes for both squads right there and Columbus and Pittsburgh. And I think you need to give these guys some time. I mean, look at how Columbus finished last year. Mike Johnston didn't finish too well last year, but look at the injuries that they had. So I think you got to give both of these guys some more time. But at the moment, no, I'm not buying it at the moment. I just don't think it's time at this moment. They have a lot of good personnel on both sides, but I think both squads have some issues as well. Pretty much both on defense, actually. Both teams have some defensive issues. Bobrovsky hasn't been too good for Columbus, so I'd lean towards personnel right now at the moment rather than coaching. But as we know, sometimes it's easier to replace a coach than 23 players. So, no, at the moment, I'm not buying it for Mike Johnston right now. It's too early. Now,
last year we did see a coach let go after the first 3 games in the season. Or was it the year? Oh my gosh, it was 2 years ago. Years are flying by. It does happen. Yeah. It's very few and far between, and it usually is with a very impatient staff. And we've seen this team, the Penguins, have made changes before in the past that, spur of the moment, and they'll give you time, but they will eventually yank that leash when it's time to go. So wrapping up this first period, guys, Ken, Andy, do either of you guys see Johnston sticking around for an entire season? We'll start with Ken.
I sure hope that he does. Because, it means that the Penguins found a way and turned the ship around. Here's the thing. Guys like you're talking about who have been fired that quickly into the season, Barry Melrose, Eddie Olczyk, the teams kind of went into the season just basically saying, give us a reason. Give us a reason, because we're not really even buying into what you're selling. For those guys, I think management believes in Mike Johnston a little bit more than what those guys did to those broadcasters gone coaching. They were both coaches in their own respect. And then the other thing is, who do you replace them with at this point? Really, I think some of the better candidates are candidates or coaches who are also on the hot seat for their respective teams. Bruce Boudreau, Sutter in L.A., even Todd Richards in Columbus, who's done a fine job there and has some experience with the Pittsburgh Penguins organization.
Andy, what about you?
Yeah, I think he does stay this entire season. The Penguins do believe in him, and as Ken said, who do you replace Mike Johnston with at this point? John Hines has already left. He's not an option anymore. And, hey, the Devils just won their first game, and Ray Shero is definitely not considering throwing John Hines out the window. So I don't think this is an issue right now. The Penguins do believe in him. We've heard that many times. They hired him for a reason, and, they've fired plenty of coaches lately. They're not afraid to do that, but I do think they're going to give this guy at least one more year, at least another look to see what he can do with hopefully a healthy squad.
All right, let's
4 more consecutive losses from the New Jersey Devils just so we could see the defenestration of John Hines.
All right. Hey, enough with these coaches. Now let's hit on to this next topic.
The second period.
The second period. Still working out bugs here in the Pens podcast. Rob Scuderi was a healthy scratch during Game 4 against the Sens, and the Pens ended up winning that game 2-0 for their first win of the season. Ken, did Scuderi's absence actually help the team win that game? And if so, should they consider swapping him out more often?
I don't know. I can't prove necessarily one way or the other. I guess sure the numbers, kind of pan out. But you just watching the game, you see a team that seemed a lot more on the same page in that fourth game against the Senators. And whether that's Scuderi's fault or not may or may not be fair to blame him on. But when you're sitting there and you're watching it and that's what you see when Scuderi's not on the ice, then it certainly does tell a pretty telling tale. Scuderi has not been sharp beginning this year. He's still slow. He's still getting beat to the point. He has no ability whatsoever to make an outlook or a breakout pass to the zone. So, to me, I'd much rather see Scuderi sitting on the bench or working from up high. And by up high, I mean the press box. I don't mean we should.
I thought you meant like on a plane out of town. Yeah, 'cause I think we'd all settle for that too.
Not so much the old yeller thing.
All right, Andy, we saw what Clendening was able to do in the game that Scuderi was out. He also was a little bit of a liability at times, taking some penalties there. Given the trade-off, who would you rather see get more time on the ice?
Personally, I'd rather see Adam Clendening. I know he did take some penalties, but I do think they looked a little bit better as a group overall with Clendening in there. I feel with Mike Johnston's system, he talks about activating the defense all the time, and if you keep putting Scuderi up there, and if the forwards are looking for a defenseman to pass to, and it's Scuderi, I mean that's just not a great option right now. And when you're trying to change zones, you want guys that can move the puck and are mobile, and Rob Scuderi just can't do that right now. He's pretty much just a long stretch pass and crossing his fingers that it gets to a Penguin. That's basically what happens when he has the puck. So he does look a lot slower. I don't know. It just doesn't look good right now for Rob Scuderi. If they are going to use him, maybe rotate him in every once in a while. He's obviously not built to play, 82 games anymore or anything like that. So, and Adam Clendening, I thought he looked pretty good. He had a good camp. He took the 2 penalties, but he adds some size to the group and he can move the puck a little bit better. And just seems like a better overall fit for Mike Johnston's system right now. So if I had the choice, I'd take Adam Clendening over Rob Scuderi for sure.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with that also. It's so terribly awkward to watch Scuderi pass the puck right now across the ice because it feels like a guy that's passing it with literally one arm behind his back and he's passing it with the other hand. That's about the strength that you see on these passes right now. It's just a one-handed push like with a broom or something. It looks like, please, dear God, make it. Please make it. And that's what we're seeing right now out of Rob Scuderi. So, and it really does. It seems to really hinder the offense and getting the puck into the attacking zone. So we'll see what happens there. I kind of mind, I would rather see him spell some guys to give them a break as opposed to him being that main option. What do you think about that, Ken?
And I think at this position, between Adam Clendenning and Rob Scuderi, I'm not sure which is more of a liability or not, because Clendenning, as Andy mentioned, did take some pretty silly penalties and was pretty blatant and obvious when he was doing something. But the thing is, with Rob Scuderi, we know exactly what we're going to get, and there's really not a whole lot of room for growth at his age. Whereas Adam Clendenning, there's more of a ceiling there because he's a young guy. He's a little bit faster, a little bit more fleet of foot, and more teachable, at this stage. So I have more faith in the progress that Adam Clendenning can make than the status quo that is Rob Scuderi. And isn't going to improve if he doesn't get the ice time.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, the whole veteran presence thing is kind of getting old too. I mean, you think about all the players that the Penguins have right now, all the guys that have won cups, and you have Patrick Hornquist is pretty good, I think, with the leadership and everything like that. I mean, they've added a lot of guys that have plenty of NHL experience, so I don't, the veteran presence thing. I mean, this isn't a team that's, that was like 2007. I mean, this is a very different team. This team's gone through many postseasons together, so the whole veteran presence thing. This team does not need that anymore. I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
That's why we brought Ben Lovejoy in anyway.
Yeah.
Craig Adams, bring him back.
Mute you for that.
Yeah, I know. I just have negative points for that.
All right. Hey, we're gonna take a break here in a second, a little second period intermission. But before we do, Ken wants to say something. So, Ken, you got the floor.
Commercial break.
Yeah, so we have reports out of Canada or on Canadian radio, sports radio. If you're familiar with the scene up there, Toronto, the Fan, Elliot Friedman, respected Elliot. 30 thoughts. He's the man. Elliot Friedman. Well,
yeah, he's awesome.
And he was talking about Sidney Crosby and some things that he observed from Sidney Crosby on Saturday's game. In the quote comes down to the thing that stood out to me most on Saturday night, and I don't know how carefully you were watching the game, but there was a shot of Sidney Crosby sitting there on the bench, and he looked morose, just stretched out, morose, and there was no one sitting next to him.
Not Melrose?
Melrose.
Now we've seen that before because when period ends, Crosby tends to linger on the bench. It's not anything new. So sometimes it has been in his less productive years or times. But okay, so this is what Elliot Friedman is seeing. So maybe he's onto something. So maybe our captain is just sad. So I came up with cheer the guy up. People who are important to the Pittsburgh Penguins organization and to hockey in general. And I just asked, do you have a word of inspiration for Sidney Crosby? And this is what I got in return. Dear we have recently noticed a decline in your production and would like to arrange an alteration in your disposition. Enclosed, you will find a pre-approved loan through First Niagara, a voucher, 15 square feet of for lumber, tickets to an upcoming home game against an undesirable opponent of your choice, and delivered by our captain, Sidney Crosby. Signed photograph of me, David Morehouse. Sincerely, David Morehouse. This one's from our friends in the ECHL. Dear Mr. Crosby, we heard you were in a funk, so we decided to do something to help cheer you up. Here are season tickets to see the Wheeling Nailers and a voucher for one free concession stand hot dog. We hope they boost your spirits. Sincerely, staff of the Wheeling Nailers. This one is from the nation of Canada. We had some love come down from our friends in the Great White North. To our captain and favorite native son, we love you like our own. Every 4 years anyway, and well, let's face it, we have McDavid now, so you rank somewhere between Wendell and Paul Ferguson on the. But we'll never forget that night in Vancouver, eh? At least not until the next time you play one of our teams. Love, Canada. From Hockey Night in Canada, dear Sid Crosby. Shut up, kid. And up around like a sad pinko in tight jeans. You're the best thing that ever came out of the queue. So go out there, throw up your chin strap right, and play the game with some heart. And then finally, a little closer to home. Dear Sid, why so sad? Gino is score streak. Maybe save some fill for a skill player? Kidding. Cheer up, buddy. Gino. So those are our 5 friends trying to cheer up our captain. So Crosby, I hope you
love Gino
and maybe be a little bit happier and put some shots on the board or score some goals or for God's sake do something.
All right, awesome. We are back from intermission and moving on to the next topic. That was amazing.
That was awesome.
Third period.
The third period. It is a lightning round, guys. You've got 15 seconds to come up with your answers. And there's no official clock, but it's all in my head, so I will move on as I see fit. Starting with Andy this time, we're starting with the biggest hoser of the week.
Biggest hoser of the week.
The biggest hoser of the week.
Biggest hoser. God, I'm blanking.
The biggest hoser of the week is Andy Hughes. Moving on to Ken Will.
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Where we moved on to Michael Vick.
I didn't know we were allowed to do football.
Anyone you want. You're a hoser of the week.
All right. The big hoser. All right. The Pens' best player this week, starting with Ken.
Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, I don't know how you can make a case for anyone but Marc-Andre Fleury. He's almost, I think he's tied for 5th in scoring for the team, so not doing too bad.
He's a good old Canadian boy. Andy, who's your Pens' best player?
I won't say Fleury because that's stupid, so I'll just I don't want to say the same person.
Fired. I love it.
That's what I meant. I don't want to say the same person.
I like this.
I'll go with Evgeny Malkin. Had 2 goals.
All right.
Week. He's been the Penguins' best forward right now. He's pretty much carrying the offense on his back right now. So I'm going to take Gino. He's had a couple nice goals, and he's had some good looks as well, in addition to those goals.
All right, and now that we've got the best player out of the way, let's talk about who needs to improve on this team. We'll start with Hughes. What's up?
Who needs to improve? Well, I don't know if I don't know if Rob Scuderi can improve it all, but he certainly could use some time in the press box, I think, as we've said. Maybe he could have been the hoser I could have picked, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if the guy can improve it all. So.
All right, Ken, biggest improvement.
I haven't seen anything from Nick Spalling yet this year. And, it's about time for Nick Spalling to step up and start to score and produce. And I mean, if he's not going to do anything from the line, I mean, he's got a gifted center like Brandon Sutter, and neither of them have done anything this year. And the Penguins need secondary scoring more than ever right now.
What year is it? I'm confused.
Spalling and Brandon Sutter need to step up and. It actually kind of sucks to see the highlights from Vancouver.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there he goes again.
Yep.
See what Brandon Sutter does, and it's falling, jamming into. But it is what it is.
I think you've got your Knicks mixed up. Anyways, the move is definitely addition by subtraction, right?
Oh,
sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Especially with that salary cap hit.
We got a better beard out of the deal, so we can at least
less hair on top, but better facial hair. Absolutely.
This is the Penguins team that has significantly less flow than it ever has before because Letang isn't even carrying his weight anymore.
Well, I mean, we've got Sprong. That's about all the flow we've got right now. Sprong and Farnham.
Oh, God.
So let's not go there.
No, it's
Hey,
not.
we are out of time, and based on the stats, we've got 80 to 79. That puts Ken in the lead for this week's overtime last word. So let's hit overtime.
Overtime. I have to do my own overtime.
So here's what happens. You get 30 seconds to say whatever you want. This is your show.
Okay. Well, great. We've had 2 home games, Penguins, and it's not too late for us to get on board, do the right thing, and party hard. Now, I know that this is my rant, but all we're asking is for you to listen to this thing. You know, it's fine that you fired Bob Grove. It's fine.
No.
It's really not, but
No.
it's fine. You have ignored our pleas for a permanent return to the Pittsburgh Gold. I understand that, the jersey deal, Reebok's out, Adidas is on the way in. You're probably going to want to do something then to sell jerseys. But listen to us on this because it costs you no money. It's what the fans want. That's what we've been asking for. At this point, it's a power struggle. Who has the power here? If it's you, you're wrong.
Sass. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Ken lowers the boom on this edition of the Pens Podcast. We'll be back next week where we have no idea what we're going to talk about or even what this is going to look like. So
We got a whole week of games coming up.
We'll see. All right. We'll see you guys.